The Young and the Restless spoilers Friday's full episodes February 7, 2025 In the dim glow of an early evening, tensions flared as Adam's simmering anger erupted into a storm of bitter words and bruised pride. It had all started when Billy, ever the guardian with a heart too tender to see Chelsea suffer, interfered in a delicate dance of love, a dance that Adam believed was his alone to control. Adam's eyes flashed with a warning that was both cold and unyielding as he cautioned Billy, "Don't meddle any further, keep your distance and live your own life." His tone left no room for negotiation, for he had already decided that his personal ambitions and desires were more important than any alliance or friendship. Yet Billy, driven by an unspoken promise to shield Chelsea from heartache, refused to allow her pain to continue unchecked. Despite the harsh words that had been flung like arrows in the crowded room, Billy's concern for Chelsea's well-being pulled him back into the fray. With a firm yet caring resolve, he took it upon himself to warn her, a warning meant to protect rather than condemn. Billy's words, layered with both compassion and frustration, were meant to steer Chelsea away from the precipice of regret that Adam seemed all too willing to approach. Behind the simmering conflict, a darker betrayal was quietly unfolding. Adam, caught in a web of his own making, had begun to waver on the promises he had once held sacred. Though he had sworn loyalty and commitment, his mind was steadily drifting toward Sally, a memory of a love he once cherished and a conquest he yearned to reclaim. This internal betrayal left Adam feeling untethered, with nothing substantial left to anchor him to the present. His thoughts became a battleground, where the promise of fidelity clashed with the seductive lure of past attachments. It was a betrayal not only of others but of his own word, a betrayal that Billy, keenly aware of Chelsea's fragile state, could not overlook. In a scene charged with raw emotion, Adam and Billy found themselves locked in a verbal and physical proximity that only heightened the tension between them. They advanced steadily toward each other, their words laced with venom and indignation. Each insult hurled was a spark, each defiant retort a blazing flame that threatened to engulf their already tumultuous relationship. The clash was not just a battle of words, but a collision of pride and wounded honor, a display of anger fueled by betrayal and the desperate desire to hold on to something that was slipping away. Amidst this chaotic duel of emotions, another layer of the family drama began to unfold. Victor, the ever-calculating patriarch with a penchant for orchestrating power struggles, made a decisive move of his own. Recognizing that the escalating conflict between him and Jack was dragging down the entire family, Victor extended an invitation to Nikki, a plea for her to withdraw from the relentless battle. "Step aside," he urged, his tone both commanding and persuasive. "Let the women remain out of this fight, it is between me and Jack now." Victor's strategic maneuver was designed to isolate the feminine influence from what he considered a war of wills, a war he intended to win by the most persuasive means possible. Jack, for his part, had long been ready to do battle, even though he was well aware that every fight came with its own set of sacrifices. In his eyes, every duel over power and pride, every confrontation with Victor, carried the risk of losing parts of himself that he held dear. But the stakes were too high, and Jack's determination was unwavering, even as he calculated the cost of his future victories. The battlefield was set, on one side, the unyielding ambition of Victor, on the other, Jack's unspoken vow to defend his honor and the legacy he had spent a lifetime building. Meanwhile, Nikki, worn out by the endless cycles of deceit, manipulation, and the weight of endless battles, reached a point of emotional exhaustion. With a weary sigh and a heart heavy with resignation, she declared that she would no longer allow herself to be entangled in the strife between Jack and Victor. "I'm done," she proclaimed, her voice carrying the finality of a decision made after countless sleepless nights. "I will live my life on my own terms, enjoying every moment without the burden of these endless conflicts." In her eyes shone a determination to reclaim a sense of freedom that had long been obscured by the shadow of family feuds. "Let Jack and Victor fight over what they hold dear," she added, her tone tinged with bitter irony. "I refuse to sacrifice my happiness for their never-ending battle." In that pivotal moment, as emotions swirled like a tempest and alliances shifted like sand in the wind, the true cost of ambition and betrayal came into stark focus. Adam's internal conflict, spurred by his wavering promises and the ghosts of past loves, collided headlong with Billy's steadfast desire to protect a vulnerable heart. Their confrontation was a microcosm of a much larger struggle, a struggle in which personal ambitions, old loyalties, and the desperate quest for redemption were all jostling for supremacy. The drama between Adam and Billy served as a mirror reflecting the broader chaos that had seeped into every corner of their lives. It was a living testament to the fact that in the ruthless world they inhabited, love was often entangled with pain, and loyalty was as fragile as a whisper. Each insult, each defensive stance, was more than just a momentary lapse in civility, it was a declaration of war, a signal that the battlefield of their hearts and minds was far from pacified. As the evening deepened and the echoes of their confrontation lingered in the charged air, it became clear that no simple resolution could mend the fractures that had been so violently exposed. Adam's betrayal, his secret longing for Sally, had set in motion a cascade of events that would haunt him for years to come, while Billy's relentless pursuit of Chelsea's well-being stood as a testament to the strength of a protective, albeit painful, love. In the end, while Victor and Jack continued their power struggle with strategies and ultimatums, and Nikki retreated into a self-imposed exile of independence and joy, the unresolved tension between Adam and Billy hinted at further stormy days ahead. Their battle was not merely a clash of egos, it was a profound exploration of what it meant to love, to betray, and to stand by one's principles even when the cost was heartbreak. The night wore on, and as the world outside slumbered, within the walls of that conflicted haven, the seeds of future reconciliation, or further discord, had been sown, waiting for the inevitable day when the truth of their hearts would have to be faced, no matter how painful the reckoning might be. In the midst of a labyrinth of conflicting loyalties and secret orders, the atmosphere among the intertwined families grew increasingly fraught with tension. Kyle's growing emotional distance from Summer had become a source of constant worry and exhaustion for her. Every day, she found herself questioning the reasons behind his cold behavior. One quiet evening, as the autumn wind rattled the windows of their shared home, Summer finally confronted Kyle. "Why are we like this?" she pleaded, her voice heavy with both hurt and confusion. "What happened to us?" Kyle, however, could only offer a distant gaze. His actions were no longer entirely his own, they were dictated by a force far more powerful than any personal desire, a command issued by Claire. According to Claire's orders, if their relationship was to continue at all, Kyle needed to maintain an emotional reserve, allowing Claire's influence to dominate the dynamic between him and Summer. With every passing day, it became increasingly evident that Kyle's loyalty was being shifted, not by his own free will, but by the strategic intervention of Claire. The decision, however, came with a steep cost. Summer, already worn thin by disappointment, felt a surge of anger bubbling beneath the surface. Even as she grappled with the stark reality of their fractured relationship, a bitter understanding settled in. Kyle had chosen Claire's presence over their shared past. Meanwhile, far from the personal heartache unfolding between Kyle and Summer, Nick found himself thrust into a swirling storm of suspicion and accusation. Recent events had taken a dire turn when the mysterious disappearance, and subsequent recovery, of Phyllis and Sharon had cast a long, dark shadow over him. In hushed conversations and pointed glances, rumors began to circulate. Nick was suspected of kidnapping the two women. The whispers of conspiracy grew louder by the day, and soon, Nick was forced into a corner where he had no choice but to explain himself to everyone around him. Sharon, still reeling from the ordeal and filled with lingering mistrust, was particularly vocal in her doubts. She noticed striking similarities between the unfolding events and details of past incidents, details that seemed to point directly back to Nick. With a mix of determination and sorrow, Sharon confronted him one chilly afternoon, her eyes searching his face for the truth. "Nick," she demanded, "how can you possibly explain all of this? The evidence seems too coincidental. Why should we believe that you had nothing to do with Phyllis and my own ordeal?" The accusation hung heavily in the air, and Nick's heart pounded as he faced the incredulous eyes of those around him. He knew that he needed to craft an explanation that was not only logical but compelling enough to dispel the dark clouds of suspicion gathering over him. With a steadying breath, Nick began to outline his version of events. He explained that the disappearance of Phyllis and Sharon had been the work of a shadowy figure whose motives were entangled in the same web of power struggles and familial intrigue that had long plagued their lives. Nick insisted that he had been caught in the crossfire of events beyond his control, manipulated by forces determined to sow discord and mistrust among the family. Nick's voice wavered at times as he recounted the details, yet his eyes burned with a sincere intensity, a desperate plea for understanding. He reminded everyone of the countless times he had acted with unwavering loyalty and integrity, of moments when his actions had saved lives rather than shattered them. He acknowledged the uncanny similarities that had sparked suspicion but argued that such coincidences could be orchestrated by those with a hidden agenda, ones who sought to tarnish his reputation for their own gain. "I have nothing to hide," Nick declared, his voice resolute. "I am as committed to this family as each one of you, and I would never jeopardize what we have built together. I ask you to look at the facts, to consider the possibility that someone else is trying to pin this on me, and to trust in the truth." Yet, the path to absolution was steep and rocky. The room was divided, some listened intently to his fervent defense, while others remained skeptical, their eyes clouded by memories of past deceptions. Sharon, torn between her instinctual distrust and the familiarity of Nick's character, remained silent, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. The burden of proof, it seemed, rested squarely on Nick's shoulders. Every word he spoke was scrutinized, every gesture analyzed for hidden meanings. Back at the heart of the personal drama, Summer's confrontation with Kyle continued to echo the painful realities of their imposed separation. Despite her anger and anxiety, Summer's love for him was undeniable, and deep down she wondered if there might still be a way to salvage what they once shared. Yet, as Kyle's eyes remained locked on the distant horizon, it was clear that his heart was already entangled in Claire's carefully laid plans. The command from Claire was absolute, a decree that if Kyle wished for his own survival in the perilous games of love and power, he had to accept the distancing, the cold detachment that left Summer feeling abandoned and unheard. In a quiet moment of reflection, Summer recalled better days, the times when laughter filled the rooms of their home, when the warmth of shared dreams seemed to promise a future free from the strife that now defined them. The bitterness of the present, however, was a stark reminder that those days were slipping further away. Every attempt to reach out to Kyle was met with a silent refusal, a gentle yet unyielding reminder that his loyalty had been commandeered by Claire's will. "Is this how it's meant to be?" Summer thought, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Must I always be left in the shadows of someone else's choices?" The dual crises, Kyle's emotionally charged distance and Nick's desperate need for vindication, created a palpable tension that stretched the fabric of their intertwined lives. On one side of the spectrum, Summer struggled to comprehend and endure the cold detachment of the man she once knew, while on the other, Nick fought for his honor against a tide of suspicion that threatened to engulf him. The discord between personal loyalties and external manipulations became a mirror reflecting the deeper fractures within the family, a legacy of command and control, of secret orders and hidden agendas that left little room for genuine connection. For Nick, the challenge was not just to clear his name but to restore faith in the bonds that held the family together. Every word he spoke, every piece of evidence he presented, was a bid to reclaim trust and dispel the dark rumors that had taken root. He knew that in order for the family to move forward, they would need to confront the possibility that an external hand was at work, orchestrating these events to serve a purpose known only to a select few. With calm determination, Nick vowed to leave no stone unturned in his quest for the truth, even if it meant facing adversaries within his own ranks. In the background of these personal battles, Claire's silent influence loomed large. Her decisions, often cloaked in secrecy and delivered with the cold precision of a seasoned strategist, had altered the course of relationships and rewritten the rules of engagement. While Summer's heart ached for the warmth of connection, and Nick strove to salvage his reputation, Claire's voice remained the final arbiter of fate. Her command that Kyle maintain distance was not born of malice but of a calculated effort to steer the tangled web of relationships into a configuration that favored her long-term ambitions. As the day wore on, the emotional fallout of these revelations began to permeate every corner of their shared existence. Summer's questions about why things had to be so became a recurring refrain, a plaintive cry for clarity amid the chaos of unspoken orders and manipulated destinies. Kyle, caught between the demands of loyalty to Claire and the vestiges of his past with Summer, seemed resigned to a fate dictated by forces beyond his control. And Nick, still at the center of a swirling vortex of accusations, braced himself for the long, arduous task of convincing a skeptical family, and perhaps even himself, that he was innocent of the crimes attributed to him. In the end, the collision of these deeply personal conflicts underscored a timeless truth. That in the midst of betrayal, manipulation, and unyielding command, the search for truth and genuine connection remains the most arduous, yet the most essential, quest of all. Whether Nick could successfully dispel the dark clouds of suspicion, or whether Summer's relentless hope could ever reach the distant heart of Kyle, was a question that lingered, unanswered, as the intricate dance of loyalty and deception continued to unfold. The stakes were high, and as each character navigated their own internal battles, the only certainty was that the journey ahead would demand nothing less than the raw, unvarnished truth, and the courage to face it, no matter the cost.